advance the vanguard of this, parallel media. We're advancing this new framework for assessing information broadcast to the masses via whatever platform you get it from. We look at the big stories that are inescapable, like the MMA fighter beating up the wrestler. And I'm realizing how cutting edge we are, but not only that, but relative to anyone else, like Normieville, they're sliding back. Now they're questioning whether wrestling is even fake. And they're looking at wrestling uncritically. Now, I'm not saying I know for a fact that the thing was fake, but we're going to go over all of the details and the various narratives that are being used to explain it. But it's being described by the media as 22 punches to the guy's face. And I would challenge anyone to find me 22 hits. I'm doing a video breakdown, and one thing that's for sure is that the way it was originally packaged is like 20 hits to the head, blood everywhere. He flatlined. Well, I'm looking at the footage, and the MMA fighter isn't punching down into the face. He's swinging his arm in a circle. He's doing these windmills. So he's windmilling on the guy, a trained face puncher. And if the guy on the ground is unconscious, then it would make sense that his head's being thrust around and he's being hit really hard. But let's not assume he's unconscious. There was a script. So let's not assume that the wrestler who was body slammed onto the canvas, let's not assume he was knocked out by that, which is a routine move, which would have been a pre-planned move. So if he was not really unconscious, then it's logical to assume that he had to help the illusion that the punches were contacting. And if you look at the punches, I said in the guy's face or reaching for chips, like reaching into a bag of chips, because as he's punching down, his hand is opening up. Or is he lovingly combing his fingers through the guy's beard? Was Rahad Jackson combing his fingers through Psycho Stu's beard? Because that's what it looked like. It looked like beard fluffing. And so the punches weren't contacting the face. They were contacting beneath his chin, right above his clavicles, flopping his beard around for an effect. And so people have said, well, you're just cherry picking a couple of punches. So I'm looking through and I'm like, okay, well, here he punches under the armpits, misses multiple times. And as I move through this, people are moving the goalpost. But the point of it is, if the original story as reported has holes in it, you don't have to assume any essential reality to it. Then the burden of proof goes back to the media. But they're uncritically saying he was hit 22 times. And if you look at the broader context of this, how this has been taken in by the woke right, how the internet is polarizing it along racial lines, it's very psyop-y. And someone yesterday pointed out, they said, this is like Ultraman beating up Superman in the new Superman movie. So if you don't know the backstory, Lex Luthor is using a remote control video game controller to cause Ultraman to keep punching Superman gratuitously. It's like gratuitous violence, punching him in the face. Punch, punch, punch. He's going crazy. It's kind of a meme. Well, someone said this scene reminds me of Ultraman pounding Superman's face. Well, they showed a picture of Psycho Stu in the operating room with a little bit of theatrical blood on his bib. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, wait, isn't this some kind of a HIPAA violation for an unconscious patient in the ER to have his photograph blasted across the interwebs without his consent? So that's also another red flag. This hospital drama, we got all the back drama. The guy telegraphed his moves. I mean, it's very much in line with World Wrestling Entertainment, where you get the whole story backstage, and it's like, it's reality TV. So I'm looking at this, and the guy in the hospital bed, Psycho Stu, has his sleeve rolled up, and he's got a Superman tattoo. I'm like, oh, that's interesting, because someone had pointed out the Superman thing. Viv says, if you land the punch with loose middle fingers, your knuckles curled, forming the fist, can act as a shock to minimize blow. Yeah, it looked like he was doing this kind of collapsing thing, and also his wrist was bending. You could see his wrist bending. You can see his fist collapsing, and as he was punching down, he was bending his elbow. So the trajectory of his punch wasn't straight to face. Let me get out a piece of paper. So the face of the guy on the ground, Stu, here he is unconscious, his beard is up here. So the fist coming down isn't pummeling his face, it's arcing. And as it's arcing, he bends his arm. So the punch goes down and up this way. And it passes beneath his chin, fluffing his beard. And then this guy turns his head sharply to the left. So if you think he's unconscious, it looks like a severe blow. But if we remove that assumption, and no, he didn't wake up in the hospital, because it would have seemed a little odd. I think for the psyop to work, consciousness until he was out of sight, out of mind, so it's all dramatic. So at this point, the theatrical elements are hard to deny. The political utility of this as a psyop is also worth noting. It's not over yet. Looks like my art across the street. Okay, well, my battery's about to die. I'm going to have a newsletter update very soon regarding the sub-trading cards. It's about to rain on me anyway. So we have some pretty big developments. We'll get into that in detail later. This sized 22 punches. And I'm like, okay, maybe that's symbolic. And I remembered that Derek Chauvin was stabbed 22 times in his jail cell. And at the time, we were noticing these patterns. And so I was looking back at that. And I'm like, could there be some significance to the 22? I don't know. Another thing, too, there wasn't any blood when he was yanked off of Psycho Stu. But as he's walking out, there's blood on his shirt, as though he had wiped bloody knuckles on his shirt. And the color of the blood was, I wouldn't say Heinz 57, but it wasn't the hue of blood that comes out of somebody's nose. Not according to my expert opinion. And I have seen gallons and gallons and gallons of blood as a decedent, transporter, embalmer, etc. So I didn't get the visceral sense of it being real. And I looked at the bloody face of the guy on the ground after the fact. I don't know when they put that blood on. But anyway, I'm thinking the whole thing is kayfabe. And they've managed to... And so they just see the flurry of punches. I'm like, yeah, this is real. How dare you call it fake? So they're calling me all sorts of things because I don't believe it's real. And it's like, we're also talking about something that was scripted, and they're claiming it went off script. Like they're doing some kind of psyop. I'm convinced of it. Especially if you look at the heavily racialized commentary on X that's building up around this. People calling for his arrest. LAPD is doing an investigation. And what seals it for me? Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast. The guy's hospital bills. The #1 YouTuber in the world. How is this not a psyop? Ryan Garcia commenting on it. Andrew Tate or something did bad things to him at Bohemian Grove or whatever. You know, Ryan Garcia. So all these psyop people are involved. So I don't think it's real. If that makes me a bad person, so be it. Wrestling's fake. Sorry if that offends.